Hey everyone, Todd here, internalarchitect.com, and in this video I want to have the discussion about whether it is harder, if life is harder as a survivor or as a patient. Now, I see these in chat rooms and survivor support groups as kind of a question is how do you kind of differentiate the two, And it's really pretty hard because you go through a couple different stages as a patient when you get diagnosed, and then once you go through the entire experience of treatment and you're able to come out on the other side, then you now have all these new issues to deal with as a survivor. And that's why it's kind of hard to justify the two. I think straight off the bat, I believe it's a little bit harder as a survivor. Life is harder because life is just hard. Even before going through cancer and even before having a diagnosis and when I was healthy, life was just hard. I didn't have a lot of knowledge into the depths of my own being and, dealing with my ego and my super ego and my id, and just from a psychology standpoint, it was really a difficult process to know. I had no clue. I wasn't really in a position to know anything about myself and to really care about doing any sort of self-help or conscious growth, which I enjoy talking about all the time. When you're diagnosed, you go into this entire fear category because you're dealing with the stigma and cancer, and you're also dealing with all the unknowns that come along with it also. One, like I said, the stigma of cancer. For most people, what they don't understand is that it doesn't necessarily mean a death sentence. But when you hear the word cancer and when it involves you, you kind of think death. You think of the worst case scenario, which brings into the entire mortality of your thinking. And that's where it can be really hard to kind of get over. Fortunately, these days with the technologies that we have, things are getting better from a survivorship standpoint. And to be able to survive the cancer, it's not always going to be rainbows and candy, unfortunately. But for those of us that do make it as a survivor, we have to deal with life as a survivor now. As a patient, when you're going through it, you get weighted on hand and foot. You are constantly being helped by a caregiver, by all the nurses and all the doctors. You're being weighted on hand and foot. So you kind of have this perpetual help that goes on. For most people, that is. There's a lot of people that don't have that because of insurance issues and other outside things that make it really difficult for them to have that. They may not have the support. They may not have the support group even to deal with helping the patient get through all the cancer diagnosis stuff. So that is an unfortunate side effect of our current health system right now, and let's just hope and pray that some things will start changing. But back to the whole thing. Sorry for the tangent. As a patient, we're catered on hand and foot. We have comfy chairs to deal with, the infusions that we have. Yeah, sure, we have to go through surgeries, and sure, we have to go through a lot of different testing, and, we do feel like that test animal like I've talked about in previous videos, but we kind of really deal with the fear of not knowing. And this kind of goes both ways for a survivor and as a patient. We don't know because we've never been through the experience. And as we go through the experience, we get a little bit more comfortable with it for the most part, as long as we are dealing with the treatment in a good way. Then there's the reality of the survivorship side of cancer. Once you are in the clear, so to say, you either live in remission or the doctors and the oncologists deem that your cancer is gone, or I hate using the word cured, but even so, you now are dealing with the entire gamut of feelings and emotions that come along with, holy shit, I just made it this far. It looks like I'm going to be able to live another decent amount of time, and I'm not having to deal with my mortality right now. And that's where it gets really tough, because you have this first realization of, wow, I'm here. This is awesome. And then things start to sink in. You start to learn more about what it means to be a survivor. You start learning the statistics of cancer reoccurrence. You start trying to just understand this whole entire process and this entire experience that you went through. And it's really difficult to kind of grasp your head around. And it takes time, and it's really important to start doing a lot of the mental health side of it by seeing specialists, by seeing counselors, and you start working through all this. It doesn't happen overnight. This is something that I'm still even working on. I'm 8.5 years into it as a survivor. It's a constant process, but what has really helped, and I think this is something that's really, really key, and this could be when you are a survivor, what really helps kind of get you through this and helps make this survivorship thing a lot easier is starting to figure out what your life's meaning is and the responsibility that comes along with it. Just because we are now survivors doesn't mean that we can or we should become complacent and stop trying to be the best that we can. It's almost a moral issue when it comes to not doing better for yourself and not even really trying to help people that have been through the experience. What you have learned through your experience with cancer is incredibly valuable to people that have and are going through it right now. And for you to be able to tell your story and to talk about it really makes it easier for those people that are struggling right now to have someone that they can relate to. I know for a fact that I had a really hard time with this because there was no one for me to talk to. There was no support groups. I mean, there were support groups, but a lot of them weren't in the area where I was living. There was a small group of people that could really help, and most of them lived in Denver. So it was really hard for me to really figure this out, right? I had to figure this out on my own. And so now that we have support groups on Facebook and, there's questions being asked on Reddit and Quora, we have an opportunity to share our story. And because this is where people are going, because the medical industry has not been able to help us survivors deal with this entire problem that is really going on. There should be a fourth stage to the cancer stages, as it's kind of deemed, I guess. The first three are the initiation, promotion, and progression. Then from there, if you become a survivor, there should be a fourth one, and that should be survivorship. There needs to be a thing about survivorship and helping people afterwards. And that's what drives me so nuts about this, And that's why I've taken it upon myself to really do some work in trying to help other people out there. I'm spending time in support groups and chat lines and threads to really just share my experience and let people know that they will be okay. The experience that they are going through is normal, and there are ways to really start helping yourself and bettering yourself, one, through the experience, and two, really grow after the experience as a survivor. And I think that's why I really brought up the life's meaning and the responsibility, because and I think they go hand in hand with each other, because as you grow and as you figure out what your meaning of life is, and you start asking the tough questions like, what is your why? I mean, why do you get up in the morning? Why do you want to do something that might be better for yourself and maybe other people? These are questions you need to ask yourself, and as you do that, you start becoming more and more open into the reality of helping other people along with helping yourself in the long run. You go through all the different stages of psychology building, I guess is the best way to put it. And as you do that, you become more confident, you become more aware, your responsibility grows because of helping other people, and it makes you feel good deep in your heart. And that's why I find it's important to do this. And once you kind of take on this responsibility, then the entire meaning really makes sense to you. But you have to learn this. This isn't something that you just are given, right? And so by learning this, you are learning positive things that will help you through the rest of your life. That right there is why it is harder to live as a survivor than as a patient. As a patient, you're given everything, but as a survivor, you have to learn everything. And as you learn things and as you start figuring yourself out, it all starts to really make sense. I think that's the best way to put it. If you have any questions, hit me in the comment section below. I'm constantly tweaking on my theories and my ways of being able to explain this to you guys because I think it's really important. I'm starting to get a lot of really good feedback from what I'm getting in some of these chat rooms. Yeah, again, hit me in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate your time and your energy into the videos I'm putting out and the content that I'm trying to express and show you guys, and hopefully guide you all in a little bit of a better direction, because as survivors, I think we all really need it. So awesome. Again, thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next video.